Hello everyone, just before the expansion, its series continues. We go with the itemization. We are going to be done with itemization soon. Of course, it was not as lengthy as the character category. So what we have is the item rarities, guys. So you will not be seeing any rares in here, right? I just have them. Let me find out if I can get any rares. Actually, maybe I can find some here. I don't think so, but I'll see. Just so I can show you rares, but you should be used to it. It's all the way the same from even Diablo 1, I think. Diablo 2 for sure, but Diablo 1 I'm not very sure. Okay, I do have one, so there will be some rares in here. This. Oh, okay. Okay, so guys, these are rares, right? And rares have two modifiers on them, right? And you kind of never use except for the very early leveling stages, right? I mean, at level 10 or so, rares will start dropping, and after that, level 15 or so, legendaries will start dropping, and you will be sticking to legendaries. Minimum on legendaries, we have three different modifiers, and the aspect which we just talked about, which we will get into in larger detail when we are reviewing the crafting system, the occultist. So on rares we have two modifiers, on legends we have the three modifiers plus the aspect, and we can also imprint the aspect on the rares as well. But yeah, as I said, rares are a passing rarity and we won't be using them. After that we have uniques that are rather unique, and finally we have the mythic uniques that are displayed in purple. These are sweet. There are like only 8 of these, I think, in the entire game. Uniques, there are many, but mythic uniques are for all around use. None of them provide specific stats. They are all, general use, damage reduction, resistance to all elements, all stats, right? For example, like this. I should have some all stats versions here. See, all stats, right? And of course, not everyone can equip all of them. So for example, guys, a sorcerer can't equip a grandfather, which is a 200 sword, but they are meant for all purpose use, right? I mean, they will be useful to everyone that can use them. So how do we get these? Well, rares and legendaries, as you can see, drop from in-game. Uniques drop rarely from everywhere, from bosses. I mean, from bosses you would be getting, depending on which boss it is, you would be getting some uniques, and mythical uniques only drop from tormented bosses, which we will get to later on, with a 7.5% chance. And for uniques, guys, not all of them drop from all bosses, right? So for example, if you want to farm a specific one, you have to go to a specific boss. So some are shared, for example, T-Balls drops from multiple bosses, but Talrasha, Ring, this one drops from that one guy. I have not, fully, let me, I think I could maybe find. Let me see. So for example, guys, just as an example, there are a total of like 6 or 7 bosses. Let me see. I mean, Lilith is in her own league, but there are like 6 bosses, right? There is Warshan. I think, we will be doing a different video for that, so let's not get into it, right? But thing is, for example, guys, on Warshan, for example, for Sorcerer, you would be getting Staff of Endless Rage, Essos Heirloom, Raiment of the Infinite, and Talrasha's Iridescent Loop, right? So, for example, if you want, I don't know, Axial Conduits, for example, right? This very item, it's not going to drop from Warshan, right? So you have to specifically target which boss you are going to do if you want, certain uniques, and they can also drop from kind of everywhere, right? But in the bosses they have a loot table, and only specific legendaries, not legendaries, uniques drop from there. And an important difference between, so guys, unique does not mean better. So, legendary is definitely better than rare because they have 2 random modifiers and these have 3 random modifiers. But legendary, unique does not mean strictly better than legendary. And mythic unique does not mean strictly better than unique, right? Mythic uniques are very powerful, but, for example, this build, for example, would not be able to utilize Andariel's Visit, right? Even though it's a great item, we wouldn't be able to use it, right? Or Ring of Starless Skies. We could, but it wouldn't be, very great. And unique is not necessarily stronger than legendary because the thing is, guys, you can't touch the uniques, right? There is a mechanic that we will discuss in great detail because it's very important, that's called tampering. If you take a look at this, guys, you would see 2 abilities there that have a weird icon in front of them, right? There is an axe and there is a dual wield icon there. That means, I have tampered the item, right? And you can tamper legendaries, but you cannot tamper uniques, right? So by equipping a unique, you are losing out on 2 tampers. For example, this ring, Darlasha's Universal Boot, is a unique, and I can't tamper it, but I can tamper this one, and as you can see, I tampered crit damage and lightning speed cooldown reduction on the item. So if the item is not extremely core and crucial to your build, legendaries could actually be better. So for example, guys, this Fractured Winterglass is not up for discussion, right? It is the absolute core of the build. Essus Heirloom can provide up to 40% crit rate, which is insane. You can kind of dodge them. These are very important defensive items, but for example, this T-Balls, right, and this Talrasha is up for discussion, right? In the end, if you get a very good legendary, you could argue that the legendary is better than these 2, right? Because as I said, you can imprint whatever aspect you want on it, and also you can do 2 tamperings, right? So you are, and of course, guys, these have some stats on those. So for example, all stats, maximum resource. So for example, guys, for this build, maximum resource is not that valuable, and all stats is obviously not as good as intelligence for the sorcerer, right? You get some little stuff out of the willpower, dexterity, and strength, but it does not provide the same value with intelligence because intelligence increases our damage. So if the aspect is not that meaningful to you, or the legendary is more meaningful, you can go for it. But the important thing is, guys, I would like to remind, mythicals do not drop randomly, or I have heard maybe they drop extreme randomly, but let me tell you this, in my hundreds of hours, I have never seen them drop from anywhere but tormented bosses, which is the end game activity of farming. Even if they have a very very low drop rate, otherwise, right, you can just assume that they do not drop elsewhere, right? And if you have a build that utilizes these, I would suggest that you start with another build, right? Get your stuff in order, and then after you farm these, switch to that build. For example, Lightning Spear, the strongest build in the game, kind of requires these 2 items, and you should not be doing this build without these 2. So these 2, right, or 3, or 4, right, these uniques, these are findable, right? You can get them. They are not very hard. And an extremely important thing, guys, I forgot to say. Yeah. So when you know some stuff, you kind of assume, right? The mythicals are account bound, right? You can't trade them. So for example, I can buy a very good Winterglass, Talrasha or Essus from someone, but I can't buy these 2, right? I need to get them to drop, right? Or I need to craft them, which we will get to later on. But these are not tradable. So they drop account bound. So guys, this is just freshly dropped from a boss, right? I have not modified it, and as you can see, it is account bound. But let's take a look at this one. This Glows of the Illuminator, for example, just dropped from me, and as you can see, it's not bound, right? I can't trade it. But keep in mind, the moment you mess with the item, it becomes bound, right? You enchant it, you temper it, you masterwork it, whatever it is that you do, it immediately becomes bound. So, at your own risk. And another thing with the legendaries can be superior to uniques is that you can also enchant legendaries, which means you can roll away a stat you dislike in favor of something that you like. These come with a standardized package, right? So I do not have the luxury to say I don't like that maximum resource. No, give me intelligence there. Nope, can't touch it, right? I mean, they stay as they are. The only thing that you can do is masterworking. So that is it for item rarities. And as I said, I have talked about some additional stuff, but they will have their own dedicated videos. Has to be not too confusing, and we will see how they go there. And I will see you in the next installment of our series.